evening of legends, and our special guest, Mr. Harish Salve, is here, along with our editor-in-chief, Arnab Goswami. The conversation we've been waiting for, and I thank Legends, presented by Radico, Spirit of Excellence, co-powered by Reliance Digital, Personalizing Technologies, Ravan Group, Jodi Zindagi Kitab, education partner, Parul University, Vadodara, Gujarat, and viewers. Legends today is going to witness a very, very special episode. It's more than just a series. It's a tribute to greatness, a platform that honors extraordinary individuals and their journeys, how they've redefined their own field and inspired generations. And over the past editions, this very stage has celebrated the icons, the legends, from Leander Pace to Ustad Amjad Ali Khan and Uday Kotak ji to Asha Bhosle ji, and most recently, Hari Haran. And each joint has left behind a story of passion, purpose, and timeless excellence. And today, that tradition, ladies and gentlemen, continues. Before we begin this celebration of an extraordinary legal mind, let's take a moment to honor the vision and the network that makes legends possible. A stage for the timeless voices and their unforgettable journeys.
India is now the fourth and soon to be the third largest economy in the world.
When I first visited the US as a Prime Minister, India was the 10th largest economy in the world. Today, India is the 5th largest economy. India will be the 3rd largest economy soon.
And the Republic Media Network is the biggest success in the media space. We have grown from 10 million to over 450 million in reach in just 8 years.
थोड़े समय में ही इस रिपब्लिक मीडिया समूह ने जन सामान्य का विश्वास हासिल करने में जो कामयाबी हासिल की है, उसकी जितनी भी सराहना की जाए वह कम है। रिपब्लिक भारत मीडिया, अर्णव जी, पूरी टीम, आप सबको बधाई देना चाहता हूँ। आप लोगों ने, आपकी मीडिया ग्रुप ने एक साख बनाई है, एक आपने विश्वसनीयता बनाई है।
It's my joy, Arnab, you are bringing the much needed inspiration and information to people. And in such short time, Republic TV has done wonderfully well.
In 2016, Arnab Goswami quit Times Now. The resignation of India's most watched newsman made headlines in India and across the world. In India, Arnab is a cult figure and top of the charts in popular culture. But despite that, not many gave him a chance when he launched Republic from a small co-sharing space, less than 500 square feet of space, in Mumbai in November 2016. We transformed an empty and deserted oil mill into a modern news studio in just 4 months.
Hello, good morning, and welcome, my dear viewers of Republic. I don't know what the nation wants to know today, but today the game has just begun.
And when Republic launched in May 2017, it shook the Indian media industry by defeating all media groups right from day one.
Questions on ED, Rahul!
Not going to answer any of your questions, all right?
Mr. Chance, what lies ahead?
Our style investigative, exposing truths that other networks fear to show. Republic became an immediate craze in India.
लेकिन आपने भी तो उनसे बदतमीजी करी।
बदतमीजी फिर वही जवाब बोल रहा है, दे देंगे दुम का नाच गिर जाओगे यार, बहुत सारे फालतू कर रहे हो।
Mr. Malia, barrack number 12 jail conditions are ready according to Team India. Is that not fine according to the jail conditions? Mr. Malia, are the questions bothering you? Mr. Malia, why are the questions bothering you when I'm not getting a single answer? Just answer one question, sir.
In 2019, Republic stormed into the largest language market in India, Hindi. And within a year became the most popular news network with the motto and ideology of Rashtra Sarvopari, or Nation First. 2021, from Kolkata, we launched a Bengali news channel. By now, we were recognized as the fastest growing news network in India. Our tagline, Manusher Kontoshor, or the voice of the people. In 2023, we entered South India with Republic Kannada from a center in Bengaluru. And the same year, we started the construction on our new headquarters in the National Capital Region, now the largest news complex in the country. Republic is the largest video news contributor in digital streaming. On digital streaming alone, we clocked 1.3 billion views last month, which is, by comparison, 5 times more than CNN International globally in a similar period. The next goal of the Republic Media Network is Republic Global. We plan a determined entry into global news by 2026, a vision we've been working on for 10 years now.
The hegemony of Western media has to end. Western media has had it too good for too long, and it has ruined the balance of power that's required, not just in politics and society.
I was told you were a shy and retiring journalist.
I have said recently that India will be the next media capital of the world. It is from countries like India, which speak English, which are democracies, where the challenge to the global news hegemony is about to come. And the time has come to provide a serious counter to global media sources like BBC and CNN, which have been hegemonistic for far too long.
Republic is, most importantly, independently and journalistically owned. Its competitors are owned by businesses for whom news media is peripheral. For us, it's a passion and the love of the people of India that keeps this network going and growing.
And I take this opportunity to welcome the legend, Mr. Harish Salve. As few figures have stood as tall, as unyielding as Mr. Salve, a man whose life has been a testament to intellect, integrity, and the indomitable spirit of justice. He's a legal titan who remains the conscience keeper of India's legal tradition, a guardian of liberty, and a legend whose words till date shape the idea of justice. Let's take a look at his journey.
See any threat to the Constitution of India. Till Constitution of India lives in our hearts, nobody can kill it, not the politicians, not the judges. It is India which is spirited.
When one speaks of champions of justice in contemporary India, one name invariably rises above: Harish Salve.
Nagpur is a good small town, at least when I grew up there. And my father was a chartered accountant, but we come from a family of lawyers. My uncles were lawyers.
Born in 1955 in Maharashtra, from a family rooted in law and public service, Salve's path was shaped by intellect and idealism.
While doing chartered accountancy, I realized accountancy is very boring, and I enjoyed taxation thoroughly. And I sort of drifted towards tax, and then I realized if I have to do taxation, I might as well do it as a lawyer.
He studied commerce, became a chartered accountant, but the courtroom was his true calling.
So we heard the name of Mr. Palkhiwala from a very young age. And I remember meeting Mr. Palkhiwala for the first time when I was 10 years old. He came to our house in Nagpur. My father had got him to Nagpur to argue some case.
From assisting Palkhiwala to arguing landmark cases, he walked every step of the path with rigor and purpose.
In 78 December, when Mr. Palkhiwala argued Minerva Mills, I was with Dachanji and Company that time. So I was assigned by Mr. Dachanji to assist Mr. Palkhiwala. And what an opportunity that was.
As Solicitor General, He spoke for the state before the Supreme Court. Later, he stood for causes, for corporations, for Republic itself.
I'm deeply grateful. All of us at the Republic Media Network are deeply grateful. You have given hours of time. We have bothered you at odd hours. And you have always been...
The odd hours were for you. I'm 4.5 hours ahead.
In every brief he held, the law came first.
Even the justice is done on the facts of a case. Somewhere a crack develops in the body of the law.
In debates across the nation, Salve's clarion call isn't just to lawyers or judges, but to every citizen. Know your rights. Question your institutions. In moments of crisis in our judiciary, when trust is shaken, Salve has stepped forward not just as an advocate, but as a sentinel of faith in the system.
We had challenged the conduct of Pakistan in its brazen refusal to adhere to the Vienna Convention and to allow consular access to an Indian.
From defending India at the ICJ in the Kulbhushan Jadhav case to arguing the toughest constitutional battles at home, Salve's journey was never easy, but always essential.
Pakistan is obviously embarrassed to disclose the judgment given in the Jadhav case, the specific charges against him, the evidence against him. The Pakistan story has always been strong on rhetoric and blurry on facts.
He stands for restraint, for humility. He believes a judge should speak through their judgment, not through sound bites. Today we need voices that remind us that law is not a tool of the powerful. It is the shield of the powerless. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our honor to invite a living legend, Mr. Harish Salve, to the stage.
Thank you so much for that big round of applause. And I request now Executive Editor Rhythm Anand Bharadwaj to please take over the stage and welcome our esteemed guest.
Thank you, Rakshita. Well, good afternoon, everyone. In the world of law, there are lawyers, and then there is legend. His voice is echoed across the highest courts of the country, in India and abroad, whether it's New Delhi, whether it's United Kingdom or The Hague. He stood as a champion for justice. He's a counsel for the powerful, yet he's also a defender of principle. When he speaks, reason roars, words ignite, and truth takes center stage. Former Solicitor General of India, Padma Bhushan awardee, he is Mr. Harish N. Salve, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, King's Counsel, United Kingdom. Today, on a very special episode of The Legends with our Editor-in-Chief, Arnab Goswami. Meet the man behind the mind, the force of conviction that's going to continue inspiring generations. Welcome, sir.
Can we start with a nice round of applause for Mr. Salve for the time that he is giving us on this Saturday afternoon, for the effort that he has taken, and every minute of Mr. Salve's time goes between multi-$100 billion arbitrations and flying between London and Delhi and the south of France, I'm told nowadays. So the fact that he's taken the time to be here, I would presume, sir, it would not be wrong in saying that you are here because you love Republic.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
No two views about that.
And let me also begin by saying more personally to you, sir, that we also love you. As a network, everything today when he entered the campus, my mind went back, sir, to January 2021, 2 months after I was arrested. And I had a small anecdote to share, which I may share with everyone. I was being interrogated on the morning of 11th of November. I would be taken to interrogation to the jailer's room, where they would start at 7 in the morning. But that afternoon was different. My dear friend Saket Shukla, managing partner of Phoenix Legal, is here. He remembers that morning. There was a long line, sir, that day. I called Saket. There was a long line of prisoners waiting to make a phone call. So I called Saket. I didn't know what to say to him because he was the only number I had out there. And I said, just try and get me out. He said, don't worry, Mr. Salve will be in top form today. And he was always trying to encourage me. As the interrogation proceeded, the inspector, sub-inspector were all looking at these legal websites. And there was this Harish Salve versus Kapil Sibal thing going on. And every time Mr. Salve would be hard on the case, they would be soft on me. And then they were wondering, I've never been through an interrogation in which every word of yours, I realized that day what liberty meant when you had a true advocate of liberty on the other side, as only because of you I came out. And it is because of you this campus has been built. And everything that's happened in between, we owe a lot to you. So thank you, sir.
You do not owe a lot to me. Let me take this opportunity of reminding you, your motto, Nation First, was Gandhi's motto, Nation First. Except he had to create a nation. And he did. And a lot of people gave up lucrative careers. My grandfather was a very successful criminal barrister. He gave up everything. My grandmother, she was a mathematician from Ferguson College in Pune.
Yeah.
They all gave up their careers, went to jail, gave up everything, because they also thought of nation first. And it is they who have engrafted the liberties. And you talk of Gen Y, Gen Z, I'm not very familiar with this lingo, but I think one thing we need to keep reminding people is liberty is not because you have a good lawyer, liberty is not because you have a good judge. Liberty is alive in India because it lives in the heart of every Indian. And it must continue to live in the heart of every Indian. The only time where our liberty was really in peril, 1975, 1976. The Supreme Court buckled in a judgment which, if you remind them of, they get red in their face. Shivkant Shukla. Who saved liberty in India? Indians. So whenever you say, thank God for liberty, say thank God for the Constitution and thank God for those who created this Constitution and thank God to 1.4 billion Indians who believe in this Constitution.
What is your guiding principle? Let's start with the overarching theme of this conversation. What is your guiding principle? When you practice as a lawyer every day, there are minor details and there are bigger details. But there has to be an overarching principle. What is your overarching principle as a student and practitioner of the law?
I must confess, my overarching principles have undergone a change, responding to the ecosystem in which one lived. When I started work in early 80s, you had a strong government, Mrs. Gandhi, very in one sense, opinionated, highly into the socialist paradigm. Scant respect for individual liberties. And I don't know whether your generation even knows the first attempt to create the press bill was under Mrs. Gandhi. So in 1980-81.
So we've seen all this, and I used to be in Soli Sorabji's chamber. We used to fight a lot. That's when public interest litigation was born, not for the judges grabbing front page headlines, but for judges actually rescuing bonded labor, judges rescuing women who were in captivity and things like that. So that was a very different ecosystem. And I grew up in what I call the Krishnaization of the Indian jurisprudence, where, as Upendra Bakshi always said, from a Supreme Court of India, he made it a Supreme Court for Indians. So that's the ecosystem in which we grew. We fought passionately for all the causes. And that continued over the years. And then came coalition politics, in which you did not have a government. And after a while, as I always said, and a lot of people used to criticize me for saying this, I used to always say, India is the biggest living proof of a God above, because I don't know how we tick. Every time we feel this is the end of the road, something good happens to us. So we all remember those days of 1990s. All sorts of things were going on in the country. So that was a different ecosystem in which we all worked, we all fought. We fought for the judges at that time. When in the coalition dharma, they started packing the courts with cronies. And today, and I saw this in 2014, and I said this to our Honorable Prime Minister, today I genuinely feel, in the last chapter of my working life, I have to work for nation first.
You mentioned it so many times, so I presume that has been the guiding principle. You also...
It's always been.
I've had the pleasure of knowing your family, if I may say so. Your father, NKP Salve, when I started my career as a reporter, I would stand outside his house for sound bites, a very prominent politician and a chartered accountant, and you showed your keenness towards taxation yourself. You very fondly remembered some advice that another legend, Nani Palkiwala, once gave you. May I play that soundbite? I think we have a clip of that where Mr. Salve is remembering the advice that Nani Palkiwala gave him. Can we play that, please? Thank you. Let's see that.
I don't see any...
Harish, always be your own worst critic. If you finish an argument in court, come and ask yourself, is there anybody else in the world who could have done a better job? He told me, Harish, always be your own worst critic. If you finish an argument in court, come and ask yourself, is there anybody else in the world who could have done a better job?
Law Lord once said, out of 10 cases, lawyers lose 3, win 2, and the other 5 get themselves decided. So lawyers flatter their own ego by thinking that they are the ones who win cases. That's not true, but many times they are the ones responsible for losing a good case. So never judge yourself by the result of a case. If you win it, you could have won because the opponent was not good enough, or you could have won because the judge didn't see through what you were saying. Maybe there was an answer which you could find, he didn't find. Or many times you lose, it's because the intellectual caliber of the judge didn't connect. So that's why if you want to improve in life, the only way, and I believe in any career and any profession, you as a journalist, me as a lawyer, somebody as a doctor, always be your own most trenchant critic. It keeps your ego down, because you're the only one who will really admit to yourself, you messed up. You will the only one who will admit, if you had put in that 1 hour of extra labor, maybe something more would have come out. And that keeps you grounded, that keeps your ego down, and that always helps you improve.
Is humility rare among lawyers? I have seen a lot of humility in you, even after monumental victories. Mine was very small, but be it ICJ, big victories. I have seen you dissect your own arguments with the same rigor that you apply in court. And that humility is truly, absolutely rare. Does that come from your lineage or does that come from learning?
It comes from knowing how little you know. Always, I remind myself of what the great Einstein said. When somebody told Einstein how clever he was, he said, I feel like butt with a pebble of sand in my hand standing on a beach where the whole ocean lies ahead of me. Always remind yourself of how little you know. If you keep that in the forefront, you will never, ever be the victim of ego. Secondly, the day you lose your curiosity, the day you stop learning, you die that day. So, and if you will never have curiosity, you will never have the passion to learn something if you feel you're doing very well. So,
I want to take you to the Kulbhushan Jadhav case. We're representing India at The Hague, and ask yourself that question. Did you ask yourself that same question when you came back from that argument? For me and for a lot of our viewers here and people in the audience, that was one of the most iconic moments of Indian law. And we were so proud. And we were so sure. We were uncertain. But we knew that it is not an ordinary person representing the country at The Hague. It was the one and only Harish Salve who carried that on his shoulders to The Hague. I remember I sent Rhythm Anand Bhardwaj. She's there somewhere to chase you. And she kept chasing you. You're there, Rhythm? You chased him from the airport to the hotel and he was looking very distracted. And we wonder sometimes what goes on in his mind. With the whole country saying, what is Harish Salve going to say? What is the Pakistani lawyer going to say? It was one of the most iconic moments. Can I play before I ask you, as you savor the memory of that moment once again, let me play a clip from that. Shall we play a clip from that historic case, the Kulbhushan Jadhav case in the International Court of Justice at The Hague, please? Do we have the clip?
The case is simple. Shorn of the irrelevancies sought to be injected, there are two broad issues that arise in this case. The first issue relates to the construction of the Vienna Convention, particularly Article 36 of the Convention and its application to the facts of the case. On this, the admitted position being that consular access was not granted. If Pakistan's strange defense of exclusion of such cases is not accepted, then it has to be found that Pakistan is in egregious breach of the Vienna Convention.
A brief of your introduction in that case. Step away from that moment a minute and tell us what was going on in your mind. What was the inside story of that case? What happened? What happened which we haven't reported?
So the inside story is I happened to be in India for some work, and Rhythm barged into my house where I was staying that time and said, I need to take an interview. I said, over what? He says, Indian has been sentenced to death. What do you do? So in an offhanded comment, I said to Rhythm, oh, well, we should explore maybe going to the International Court of Justice. And she played it, I think your channel played it all over. And next afternoon, I got a call from the late Sushma Swaraj. She was like an older sister. So she called, I said, yes, Didi, what can I do for you? She said, you said something to Republic TV. I said all sorts of things. What did I say yesterday? She said, you said this. I said, yes. She says, PMO called and said, call him and ask him to start. I said, oh my God, I've not even thought it through. Cut to the chase, we worked on it, we built a case, and one of my juniors, super bright, Chetna, she worked on the case with me. And on a lighter vein, I must tell you, I don't know whether your generation has used to have a magazine called Mad Magazine.
Yes, sir.
It was a satire.
Yes, sir.
Which had one section called Spy versus Spy.
Sir.
So we were doing a little spy versus spy. I was told everything which I wrote in that case, I used to either dictate into my voice recognition or type myself on my desktop after disconnecting it from the internet. Save it on a pen drive. Chetna would take that pen drive into her laptop after disconnecting it, correct it. Mr. Mittal, who is now, I believe, an ambassador somewhere, he used to take it. He was that time secretary on the desk of what is called PI, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran. He used to take that pen drive to his office. And that's how we worked up this draft. One copy was printed in Sushma Ji's house for being shown to the Prime Minister. Next day she said, go right ahead. That pen drive was taken to Blackstone Chambers in London, where all the paper books were prepared and filed. And our ambassador at Hague, I mean, on a private level, they all talk to each other. The Pakistani asked him, how did you pull this off? We didn't get wind of this. Because if they had got wind of it, they had executed him, that would have been the end of the matter. So that's how we brought this case.
When you dealt with the Pakistani representative out there, what did you make of him?
It's very interesting. Let me not talk about Khawar Qureshi, because that's another story. His own people were embarrassed by him. But we had an awkward moment because there is a tradition in the ICJ, especially when you have a full hearing. So when we were there for the 5-day hearing, on day 3, the president invites everybody for a cup of coffee inside. So I had finished my submissions. I was in my court uniform. The other side were in informal clothes. They changed. They all came inside. And I was very worried about how things would look if this came out on the media, because if you remember, Pulwama had just happened. And any overly friendly public gestures between us would have been misunderstood. On a private, none of them seemed to be convinced what was happening was right. But they had to do what they had to do.
What makes you pick up these cases? When the Kulbhushan Jadhav case kind of happens out here, what makes you pick such cases? Because there's a lot of reputational issues also involved out there. Where do you find the conviction to fight Kulbhushan Jadhav's case for, you do it gratis? But
nation first. Anything for India. I have never charged the government of India a fee, except for the period when I was Solicitor General, where I put food on the table out of what government paid me. I've never charged the government a fee. I've done so many cases for the government. I'm appearing in the English court against Choksi, against Nirav Modi. So many people. Never charged the government. Indus Treaty, I have not charged the government a fee.
But is there a pressure on you as a lawyer in these kind of cases at that point of time? That what if the case doesn't go for you?
No, we have full. I've always had full support from the government of India. I have the confidence of the government of India, full support of the government of India. Sensitive thing like the Indus Treaty, appearing before the neutral expert. And I've learned one lesson in India when I was, I believe, on a flight back from Den Haag. The 1 rupee story came out because at that time, Sushma Ji told me, I can't pay you a fee because I'll have to go to Law Ministry for clearance. And the moment that happens, this news might leak.
Yeah.
So when I was coming back from Den Haag, somebody tweeted saying, oh, what did he do? He just read some written paper. Somebody must have written it for him. We could have got a cheaper lawyer to do it. What are the use to send him? And she got very angry and she said, what are you talking about? A, it was his own speech, and B, he's charging 1 rupee. That's how this 1 rupee became a story.
I often think, why isn't Harish Salve law minister?
Why? Because I'm not a team player. A minister, you have to be a team player. I'm not temperamentally a team player.
What if everyone in the audience were to say that would like to see, am I asking the right question? Is it too direct rhythm? Why are you looking at me like that? That's the question on everyone's mind, isn't it? Why isn't Harish Salve law minister of India?
Because I'm not a team player. I think I can contribute more from outside. As a team player, you have to work within a discipline. I can be as indisciplined as I want.
Yeah.
I can come here and say whatever I please.
Yeah.
You ask me provocative questions about judges and get headlines out from me. I wouldn't have been able to do it if I was a minister.
Now let's get you started. Let's start getting you to speak your mind. Mr. Salve, my next subject is on judicial interference and transgression. There is an elected government, and there is a growing belief, unfortunately, in our country, that there is also an unelected government. You've probably been the lone star who has been very vocal about judicial transgression. You've often said that the Supreme Court should be questioned. Now, that's very rare, very rare. And there are people in this country, I still remember, and I'll say it directly in the context of former Chief Justice Chandrachud, who found and hoped that former Chief Justice Chandrachud would be a parallel center of power, and who used the phrase lone star or something to that effect, that you are the lone star against this elected government, only you can save us. There are enough people in Delhi who want the Supreme Court, and there are enough people within your own legal fraternity, sir, who would like to see judicial overreach, who would like to see the courts run a parallel government. So let me start by asking you, sir, your overall thoughts. You've often said Supreme Court has a misplaced position as the moral guardian, and the public disappointment is often linked to its judgment. But we've seen this new phenomenon of judges speaking outside their judgments. Judges making comments which I feel sometimes they want to be quoted. They want those in the front pages. So, shall I get your opening remarks on this?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
If I can just take a step back. See, the expansion of judicial review was on a very intellectually robust basis, affirmative justice, brought in by Krishnayarization of the judiciary, where you open the doors of what is called locus standi, or a ability to move the court. Any citizen could move the court if there was a violation of citizens' rights. So that's how it went, and it was very targeted to those sections of society who did not have access to justice. That is where all this came from. When we challenged the bearer bonds law, nobody asked who is this person who's challenging the bearer bonds law. It was issues which were brought to court, and issues which could be resolved by judicially manageable standards. Whether a law is constitutional or not is squarely for the court to decide. Those were the kind of issues which came. Environmental issues. What was the big forest case which we fought? It was all for enforcement and honest enforcement of the Forest Conservation Act, something which was totally within judicially manageable standards. The turn came with the Jain Hawala case. The Supreme Court stepping in to order investigations. The first time a court-monitored investigation was held was in the Jain Hawala case, and political heads started rolling. That gave a kind of political power to Supreme Court which had never had before. What did it result in? 100% acquittals. This has gone on again.
Is that because the prosecution did do a good job?
Because there was no case.
I remember I was a reporter. We used to stand at Tis Hazari courts, and we used to, quote unquote, find a lot of fun when Kalpanath Rai, at that point of time, even Madhav Rao Scindia, Mr. L.K. Advani, biggest of names would come to the court. We would stand with mics outside, and there was a fervor among the people that the most powerful have been brought before the court. So wasn't that the other side of it? Wasn't it actually good?
That's the danger.
What's the dangers?
The danger is the court creating mobocracy. The Supreme Court should never try and humble people. That's not their job.
You think that was their intent?
Yeah. Whether or not it gave them a sense of power which they have never relinquished. A court-monitored investigation gave rise to a whole breed of lawyers, and I don't want to start naming them, who then made it their business to blackmail, who then made it their business to bring these issues to court. And today, even as we speak, what is a politician most worried about? You make a set of allegations, court says, get a CBI inquiry. They won't say so when it's one of their own, in whose house they find cash burning. There's no
Isn't
CBI
that the
inquiry.
secondary issue? The primary issue is that if an allegation is made against a politician, he should be as vulnerable as Anil Ambani.
Correct. He should be as vulnerable as Anil Ambani. For Anil Ambani, have they ordered a court-monitored investigation? No. For hundreds of people, have they ordered a court-monitored investigation? No. Because the law must take its course. If the Supreme Court has to work, it has to work to strengthen the working of the law, not take over these powers.
But isn't mobocracy an extreme word?
It is. I'm sorry. No, that feeling, that people feel that the rich and mighty have been brought to heel. There was a different reason why people felt that, because the kind of politicians who had come to hold office had become arrogant. The trouble it creates, and this is what I've always said, you do justice on the facts of a case, a crack develops in the body of the law. Look at then what happened next in the 2G. Wholesale investigations, 100% acquittals. Why? Because when you have a court-monitored investigation, the investigator feels, if he tells the court, look, you've asked me to investigate, but you know what, honestly, there's nothing. You say, oh, really, you've not found anything? Maybe you're also corrupt. So he says, I cover my skin. I come and give you some sort of a report. I know it's going to fall apart. And I'll give you one stinging example. Now it's a matter of court. Stinging example. The case against Sunil Mittal. Correct?
Against?
Sunil Mittal and Pramod Mahajan. The allegation was for the second tranche. Pramod Mahajan had given the second tranche without charging an increase in the AGR. The record showed he had only said when the second tranche is to be given, a committee should be constituted. That's all that he said.
Yeah.
They went to Arun Shourie, and Arun Shourie's credentials nobody has ever doubted, and asked him, were you influenced by the fact that your predecessor had said? He said, nothing of the sort. I examined it on merits, and I thought this should be done. I have done it. He was not charged. They suppressed his witness statement. And they brought a charge against Sunil Mittal.
How?
They suppressed it. Finally, it got exposed in the court. That's why Sunil Mittal was let off even by the Supreme Court. So these kind of things happen in the investigation because you have to come up and say, so-and-so has done something wrong. Why? Because the Supreme Court has ordered you to do it. You will see this pattern in every court-ordered investigation, except for a few cases of coal, and I don't want to comment because they're all pending in appeal. In the entire 2G, 100% acquittals, in the entire Jain Hawala, 100% acquittals. As lawyers, we knew this is going to happen. But in the process, today, if a judge, today, what is the politician most scared of? Your political career is under a cloud if an investigation is ordered. Who cares if after 3 years nothing is found? So this has upset the balance of power. And this has created a problem. And we need to address this problem. The justice delivery system must work. The court, I can understand if it tightens up the way you appoint public prosecutors, the way you appoint independent judiciary. We were working on it. I was appearing in a PIL for reform in the police. We forget all that and you go case by case.
Yeah. Shall we speak freely?
Yes, of course.
Totally freely.
Absolutely.
Bindas, sir, today.
Absolutely.
Mumbai style bindas. I was in a bookshop, it was Crossword in Mumbai, and I remember the case, we'd fought many cases of corruption in this country, and I always say that when we fought corruption, we fought corruption. There was no BJP, there was no Aam Aadmi Party. Sorry for BJP supporters. The reality is this, that there was no BJP, there was no Aam Aadmi Party, we fought the cases, 6 or 7 scams, 2010, 2011. And then there was a case filed against me, some frivolous case, sir. I won't go into details because then they'll reopen the case against me. But yeah, they do that, sir. But I got a call from a politician, then in the ruling party, who said, you back off and we'll pull back this and that case against you. If you don't pull back that case against you, anyway, your employers will sack you. This is reality. So I'm not naming the people. What I'm saying is, if we all want to be naive and think there is no link between the judiciary, ex-judiciary, politicians, ex-politicians, ruling party, oppositions, it's nonsense. It's all a system of nepotism. It's operating right before our eyes. It's a system, isn't it, sir? And there are enough people in the legal fraternity who do not argue or win or lose cases on the basis of their intellect, but on other considerations.
Well, if you're saying that, and that's the public perception of the court, you must remember the Supreme Court commands neither the sword nor the purse.
Neither the sword
nor the purse. It has no armies, it has no treasury. The Supreme Court has only one source of its strength: public opinion.
Is that so?
The only source.
Are the courts in this country comfortable with public opinion?
Today, that is what worries me the most. Because why was it when a strong leader like Mrs. Gandhi and others, strong leaders, dared not disobey the court? Why? The maximum the court could do is tell the police saying, go arrest so-and-so for contempt of court.
Are the courts comfortable with public opinion? I don't think the courts are comfortable with public opinion. As an editor myself, I can tell you, sir, this is my view, and maybe their lordships will be very angry with me for saying this. The courts were not comfortable with the public opinion my journalism generated, because they felt the courts should be the custodians and the directional founders of public opinion, not journalists or the media.
You and I are saying the same thing.
We're saying the same thing.
Let me explain to you why. The foundation, why is it that a politician dare not disobey the court? Why? Because they are afraid the people of India will rise. People of India feel these are our courts, this is our constitution, this is how the system should work. Or anywhere in the world, the court's only source of power of a court, we know this as a principle of jurisprudence, is the public faith in the judiciary. The vocabulary you are using today for a court shows that this has somewhere been dented.
No, my vocabulary is respectful, so don't get me into trouble with the court.
This vocabulary is perfectly justified. I don't believe in using soft words where
neither do I.
Not be used.
Sir.
What I mean is, what you are saying is something, you're not the only one who's saying this.
I felt there was a disconnect and I felt there was a pressure. Can I give you an anecdotal example? There is an aspect of Harish Salve in every part of my life. And I started as a reporter in 1996. In 1999, I started covering the court. Around 99, I started coming to your chamber. And I remember every time, when I got off my first show on TV, 2003, my first or second interview was with you. I used to do a show on NDTV called Newsnight. You had time for me. And then I take you back. 2012, sir. At that time, there was a big case filed against me, some silly production mistake. It was not even a big thing. It was some graphics or picture gone wrong. A judge filed a case against me for 100 crores. And I was roaming around in Delhi, and I was roaming around looking for lawyers to represent me because I'm pretty much on my own. And Mr. Harish Salve and then Mr. Gopal Subramaniam agreed to represent me, maybe out of pity, support, or sympathy, I don't know what, without a fee. And I happened to call somebody that day. I don't know if it was Rhythm. They said, have you managed something? I said, yeah, I managed something because my Times of India lawyers wouldn't be good enough. I would want Harish Salve and Gopal Subramaniam. Call them. I said, I've managed. What have you managed? I said, I managed to get Harish Salve and Gopal Subramaniam for me. He said, wow, you're so powerful. I said, I don't know. These are my old friends. You are my old friend. You appeared for me. I remember the day I walked up the Supreme Court, sir. I won't name another of your friends. I won't name the lawyer. I have got so much gossip inside me. Took me aside and said, oh, welcome. The nation has come to the court. And there was sarcasm at the same time. And I have never been back to the Supreme Court, but as a lawyer, we entered court number 11 or 12. I was sitting at the back. Mr. Salve, you stood up. Gopal Subramaniam stood up. And the case was settled, dismissed with the decision taken without much of a hearing in a minute. And there was something like, okay, pay 20 crores, collateral, do this, do that, out. For a person like me, I said, I go back to my employees saying 20 crores collateral, I'm going to be without a job. But what I'm saying is, sir, it was dismissed in 30, 60 seconds. There was not much of a hearing. Too much power, too much centralization, too much subjectivity Can these questions be asked, or will
Small
we be arrested
detail.
for asking these questions?
Who was the person who had sued you?
The person who sued me was a judge. The person who sued me was a retired Supreme Court judge.
You know, I'll tell you, I have seen Supreme Court now for almost 45 years, 50 years. Justice, we had judges like Venkatachalaya, and there was a case, it was an income tax case of a law firm where they had succeeded in the High Court, some petty tax dispute, they succeeded in the High Court. The government had come to the tax department, had brought it to the Supreme Court. And Venkatachalaya was pretty dismissive. He was quite a pro-citizen judge. Till somebody said, this is a law firm, he immediately sat up and said, no, Mr. Salve, one of our own, we have to hear this case very carefully. I don't want the government to go back with the feeling, because it's a law firm, we have given short shift to the government. He heard, normally he would have dismissed that government's case in 2 minutes. He heard this for 2 hours, gave them all the chances to say what they want, heard me fully, and gave a reasoned order. He said, I don't want anybody going out of this court to say, judges, lawyers, gang up and help each other.
Is that the same thinking today? What happens when one of our own has cash burning in their house? What happens when Republic TV at 12:40 in the morning runs visuals and all the rest of the media, the corporate media, are so scared to put it out? They're happy that Republic has put it out, because then they can say the others have also put it out. I hope I have the visuals. I don't have the visuals. What happens when one of our own, a Delhi High Court judge, has allegedly 20, 30, 40, 50 crores of cash stacked up in an antechamber? What happens to the one of our own principle? Why is that case not achieving any sense of finality? What happened to the case, sir? What is your thought on it?
I've said this before and I'm saying it again,
sir,
because it may not be a popular thing to say, but it has to be said. You spoke a minute ago about Kalpanath Rai and Kamal Nath and so being humbled on a diary entry, correct? Which later on the Supreme Court said diary entry is hearsay, inadmissible. They were all humbled, they all lost their jobs. If you remember, they all had to resign.
Right.
Including the then leader of the opposition, Advani ji said, I will not come back till I'm cleared.
I remember that, sir.
When you see cash burning in a person's house who's paid a salary by the government of India,
yes,
what do? You call the police, you call the CBI, right? What is the reason why they say you cannot prosecute a judge without checking with the Chief Justice, without his consent, to make sure that it is not a false complaint by a disgruntled litigant?
Yeah.
If you have cash burning, if it was cash burning in a minister's house, what would you have done? You would have called the CBI, right?
Yeah.
And all the channels would have been saying, 48 hours, why has he not been arrested? Right? All of you would have been
said the same for
paying
the
for
judge
blood.
too.
We are today almost a year away from the incident, or 6 months, 8 months from the
8
incident.
months, yes, sir.
Are we any of us satisfied with what has happened? No. What is this talk of saying he must resign and go away? If you caught minister with cash burning, would you say let him resign and go away? So why these double standards?
I'm asking you, so why was the judge allowed to go to the Allahabad High Court, and why was the
That's
focus
what I'm
on getting him an honorable exit?
I have said this before, and I'm saying this again. Chief Justice Sanjeev Khanna, I know him very well. I knew him as a lawyer. I knew him as a judge. Very fine person. His personal integrity is beyond question.
Sir.
I think he made a mistake. And this is the ecosystem now in which they are all functioning.
What ecosystem?
The judicial ecosystem, where they struck down the National Judicial Appointments Commission, that ecosystem. That he should have just said, I have seen this complaint. It doesn't appear to be a frivolous or a motivated complaint. CBI, please investigate, keep me in the loop. It should have been the end of the matter. Why an in-house committee? Today, if you catch...
Because you don't want to act.
Today, if you catch a minister in a government and the chief minister says, I'm setting up an in-house committee, you people will laugh all the way, saying, oh yeah, what a lovely whitewash. Will you ever believe a committee which says he's innocent? No, because the committee lacks credibility. What if those 4 judges had said, yeah, we saw cash burning, but there was nothing wrong?
Yeah.
What would have happened to the image of the judiciary? Would anybody in the public have been convinced?
So I'm not understanding.
One person?
No. On the duality of it, on the one side, brother judge feeling, hold the attention back, the whole country, everybody, I opened the phone lines that day. I remember I opened the phone lines that day, Agarwalji, and we asked people, and there was so much anger in this country against the judiciary. I don't think the judiciary understands it. The only thing is that people of this country don't want to mess around with the judiciary. So they give them a long rope, and there were people advising me, don't speak too much, they'll come after you. But the same judiciary goes and pontificates on everything else. We have Justice Chandrachud, who after retiring gives an interview to the BBC, the Boring Broadcasting Corporation, on everything from Article 370 to other things. Why should an Indian Supreme Court judge sit in front of the Boring Broadcasting Corporation and justify the decisions that are taken and transgress into areas that are beyond their own? I have your clip. I have your clip on that. May I play that, please? Can I play the clip
right
where Mr. Salve speaks on that subject? Please, can I play that? Thank you. Do I have it?
Speaking of what the court does, because it's not him, but the Supreme Court, which was actually on trial in that interview. We always say judges should only speak through their judgments. Take the Article 370. The judgments gave reasons why it upheld. You bring this up in a private interview and your motives for the judgment are questioned. All sorts of aspersions were cast. Also, when you sit in an interview like this, he was asked why he did not hear the Citizenship Amendment. Private interview and your motives for the judgment are questioned. All sorts of... So, and what was the underlying suggestion? That the Supreme Court has lost its duty to the Constitution in holding the balance even between different castes and communities? So this is the complete danger of giving interviews on judicial work. In holding the balance even between different castes and communities. So this is the complete danger of giving interviews on judicial work.
Can I make it worse?
Please, sir. Oh, make it worse.
Could you have had the courage to ask an Indian judge why he didn't hear a particular case? Or do you have to be a BBC to be able to ask that? Or you would have been worried about hold up and contempt?
No, I'll ask anybody at any point of time, but the question is, would the interview be given? Would the interview be given? I would...
To you, they'd be petrified.
No, but to BBC, they'd be honored. Why? Some colonial complex.
You can ask them.
Yes, I would like to ask you, sir, what is going on here? What is going on with only you and I can do this? We can sit here without, see, you are a person who has taken me out of jail, and you are a person who nobody will put in jail. So you and I are the only two people who can have a frank conversation about it.
Well, you're right about the first. I hope you're right about the second. But you know, this whole thing about being afraid of courts.
Yes.
There's a very famous quotation by one of the greatest English judges, Lord Denning, where somebody had written a strong article on some of his judgments.
Yeah.
And somebody had moved in contempt. And he says the power of contempt is to protect the erosion of public faith in the institution.
Yeah.
Not to protect the dignity of a judge. Yeah. The dignity of a judge must rest on surer foundations. So the contempt power is not to protect a judge. The contempt power is to protect an institution. And if today the court has asked, why are you hearing a case A and not a case B?
Yes.
By an Indian journalist, I would welcome it.
Right.
By a foreign journalist, why should we even agree to give interviews on the working of our institutions? I think it was questionable judgment.
Are judges on the defensive? Like you give the Ayodhya verdict, and then you feel you're answerable to the lobby on why you gave it. This is the whole thing that the lobby has done. There's been a clutch of lawyers, very bad lawyers. Some have retired now, Rhythm, and thankfully they have. but they go around pressurizing the court, and there is an ecosystem of the media, the commentariat, ex-lawyers, politicians, political parties. We've seen this happen, sir. We've seen this. I mean, it's like the judges who gave the Supreme Court order on the Ayodhya verdict should forever feel on the defensive and answerable on why they gave it. And is that the reason why things happen, why these interviews happen, where you feel defensive about your
I will only say to you what I said. I mean, there was no media there, so it didn't get reported.
Sir.
I was appearing for the Home Minister in the Loya case. I'd come specially twice from London, but good old Supreme Court, they never stick to their calendar. So I told them I have to leave. And for some strange reason, at 4 o'clock, Chief Justice Mishra presiding over the bench with Justice Kanvalkar and Justice Chandrachud. And at 4 o'clock, he said, if we give you half an hour, can you finish today? I said, I can't promise you I'll take half an hour because I have a few very big things to say. And I only said 3 things to them. I said, first of all, look at what case you have entertained. 5 of your own, 5 district judges have given you a statement. And you have been seriously hearing submissions that they were bullied by the Home Minister into making this statement. Is your system so broken that a district judge is being bullied to make a statement by which he will go to jail, cannot pick up the phone and call his Chief Justice and say, sir, protect me? And is the Chief Justice of Bombay High Court, who was also bullied, is your system so broken that he cannot call you, Chief Justice Mishra, or you, Justice Khanvilkar, who's from Bombay, or you, Justice Chandrachud, and say, sir, protect me. The Home Minister is bullying me. Is your system so broken? And if it is broken, then what are we all doing here? That's the first thing I said. The second thing I told them is, you are encouraging a vocabulary which has no place in this court. Do not allow court proceedings to be reduced to this kind of demagoguery. And I said the third thing, I said, if you ever think you will please people who are here with an agenda by giving them a long rope, you're wrong. You can hear them till the cows come home. If you decide in their favor, you are a great judiciary, and if you decide against them, you are sold to the government. It's us and them. This is not a case. This is an agenda. And they heard me quietly for 30 minutes. Justice Chandrachud had asked the government a lot of questions about why a particular entry was made, why a particular entry was not made. And I only told them one thing. We know one thing. When the government wants to cook the record, it's perfectly cooked. It's only in a genuine record that you'll find mistakes by the local cops. The next day hearing started. I was not here. Not a single question from the bench, and they dismissed the case.
So this is why I feel it's sometimes very important for me as a representative of the media to ask you, are the courts transgressing their boundaries?
Of course they are. I make no bones about saying this. Of course they are. There was a joke one time in London. I had a professional consultation with Lloyd's, the big insurance company. And I told them, maybe you should consider a new line of business in India. It's called PIL insurance. PIL? Whenever somebody launches a project, you can start an insurance against public interest litigation, some on ground of you're violating tribal rights, you're violating this right, you're violating that right, you've taken away somebody's land. You start a PIL.
Recently, there was a disturbing attempt to harm the CGI physically in the court. It happened, an act that the nation has rightly condemned. We at Republic has also condemned it. And we unequivocally condemn it even today. But do you think some of the remarks of the Chief Justice of India on Lord Vishnu could have been avoided? I mean, when the Chief Justice of India makes such a remark, why does he make such a remark? He's the Chief Justice of India. Should he have avoided those remarks? So what's this tendency that's coming up?
See, judges must now come to a reality. Speaking for myself, I do not, maybe I'm old school, I do not like this idea of live streaming of hearing in courts and these youngsters, your law chakra and law bench and God knows what all. latching on to every word that the judge or lawyer says. And I always tell Rhythm, I said, what is this? You guys use phrases like, court ne phatkar lagai. The judge had asked a question, you guys are on it. But this is the new reality.
What?
This is the new
You're blaming
reality.
the media for it.
No.
So they say things in the court.
No. So today you are there, and you are there to hear what they say. They should be very careful of what they say. I know, I suffered this.
Are they not been saying to be quoted?
They've always been saying to be quoted. I remember when...
You think Justice Gavai made that comment on Lord Vishnu accidentally?
Let me tell you something.
Accidentally?
See, then loose talk becomes a habit.
But by the Chief Justice?
By a human being. This is what happens. You start with a bad habit of making strong statements and then picking up the newspaper next morning or checking as
really
Republic picked it up.
Has happened?
Of course.
With judges?
Of course.
They want publicity?
Of course. Ask some of your colleagues.
Give me the inside story on it.
You ask some of your colleagues.
Give me the inside. I don't know. My colleagues are sitting there smiling.
Ask some of your colleagues who write articles on Supreme Court. How many of them have been called and said, are you going to cover this?
Oh,
ask them. Of course.
Oh, okay. Really?
Of course they do.
What else happens?
Not everybody, but some people do.
What else happens?
I don't know. I'm not there for the last 10 years. It happens. You know it.
Oh, God.
Ask Rhythm. How many of my colleagues and how many of judges call her and why did you say this or why did you not say this? So, of course, we all know. So,
really?
you know, then what happens is you get into a habit of loose commentary.
Okay.
And then sometimes these kind of comments come out.
Yeah. They should learn from you and me how restrained we are, how held back we are.
I can afford to be irresponsible. They can't. That's why I don't like being a minister, don't like being a judge.
You would be a wonderful minister.
No, I won't be. I'll be irresponsible in what I say.
We'll interview you every morning.
Yes. I will bring my government down within 48 hours.
You know they're afraid of you in the court. They're afraid of you in the court. They're afraid of you. Every time you take the flight back, and I know you have many private jets flying you back.
Oh, never.
Every time your private jet comes back, there are many lawyers and judges who are watching. Oh, he's landed. When will he go back? It's true.
I'm so happy you made me the owner of Lufthansa.
Why is everything dragged to court nowadays? Everything. It's like we don't have a government. And the court doesn't say no. The court welcomes it. It's become a symptom, it's become a disease. Every single legislative business in this country, everything, even if the government says that you should handle the stray dog problem, even that goes to the court. The courts have a view on everything. Why is this happening? I want to play a small clip of yours on this subject so that we can place it in context. Please.
If you encourage judges more and more to get into areas which you don't want to decide because they are politically a hot potato, then the next time the judge will do it voluntarily, then don't complain that there's overreach by the court. The whole structure has gone awry. And this needs to be fixed. If you encourage judges more and more to get into areas which you don't want to decide because they are politically a hot potato, then the next time the judge will do it voluntarily, then don't complain that there's overreach by the court. The whole structure has gone awry.
Okay, thank you.
Since you are being totally irresponsible today, let me tell you what I had in mind.
Yes.
I don't know how many people remember this. When the big Kar Seva happened, when the Ayodhya movement happened, 1992. And parallel, the hearing was going on in the Supreme Court on a day-to-day basis. Justice Venkatachalaya and Justice G.N. Ray. And the then Attorney General, Milan Banerjee, he went and told Chief Justice, Justice Venkatachalaya, as he then was, Justice Venkatachalaya said, what arrangements have you as a government made to protect the structure? And he says, my lord, the forces, paramilitary forces, police, everybody is standing there waiting for your order. And Venkatachalaya looked at him and said, forces are ordered by their generals, not by judges. Why? Because they did not want the government to take a position in the matter. They wanted the Supreme Court to say open fire. They didn't want to do it themselves. Now, you do it once to a judge. You do it twice to a judge. In every controversial case, you say, let the court decide. So we don't have to take a position. The judges then get heady.
No, but your argument in that clip was that the politicians invite the judiciary into the contentious position. They shouldn't complain over overreach later. You know, day before yesterday, there was a Corps Commanders Conference. About 1 week back, last weekend, we had an event called Forces First, where the Chief of Army Staff,
yeah, I saw
the wonderful General Ghai, all the top generals were there. I sometimes think a day will come when the Supreme Court will tell the Corps Commanders where to put the artillery, where to put the infantry, where to move the guns, how to fly the jets.
I can't laugh on you because this sounds like wishful thinking to me. It just might happen.
I worry that will also happen. There's nothing. It's happening. Sir, you yourself argued the Eknath Shinde case. By the way, I called you that day. Remember, sir, I said you were brilliant. You were absolutely brilliant for Eknath Shinde in the Supreme Court. When a speaker decides to do something in the assembly, the Supreme Court should not be knocked. And you were very clear. You told the Supreme Court it's none of your business. I mean, exactly like
absolutely.
that. But the thing is,
let me tell you, it was as simple as this. There was one round of defections. The whole defection law needs a relook because speakers have proved without exception that they can't be trusted in taking decisions fairly. The one round of defections, second round of defections, ultimately, Uddhav Thackeray resigned. When Uddhav Thackeray resigned, the governor said, I have to form a government. So he formed a government. Repeatedly, Supreme Court says, majorities of government are not proved in the office of the governor, they are proved on the floor of the House. So he called a session of the Assembly for Shinde to establish his majority. And the Supreme Court was taking umbrage at that. So I only argued one thing. I said, why are you hearing a case? Repeatedly, we have been told as young lawyers onwards, the court doesn't decide infructuous cases. Can you set aside Uddhav Thackeray's resignation? No. So Uddhav's gone. Can you set aside Shinde's being sworn in and proving his majority? No. Why are you hearing this case and wasting time? And
why were they
you
hearing
could be doing other important work?
Why were they hearing the case?
And then ultimately what comes out is a judgment saying the governor should not have called a floor meeting. So you have 5 judgments which says he must call a floor meeting. You have 1 judgment which says he must not call a floor meeting.
But why hear the case? Why get the headlines? When the government decides to purchase 4.5 generation modern combat fighter jets like Rafale, why is the Supreme Court to be read in on the acquisition?
You just answered your question.
No, I'm asking
why
so
get
why?
the headlines?
Huh?
Why get the headlines?
Isn't that the government's job?
Of course, it's the government's job. But why should the government only get headlines?
It's a government. I don't know. I've decided to go. I've decided to go footloose and fancy free today. So I'm going to keep asking you when a foreign mouthpiece, right, and deep state tool backed by vested interests like Hindenburg does a hit job, why does the Supreme Court come in?
It shouldn't, but it is. The Supreme Court is the first port of call of anybody who wants. Today, our biggest concern is this, Arnab. Just to digress a bit. We had the Kautilya Conclave 3 weeks ago. A lot of economists from all over the world came. India is the shining star of the globe, of the world today,
right,
with our growth, which makes it the single most vulnerable target. And India needs $3 to $5 trillion of investment in the next 10 years, of which at least 500 to 600 billion has to come from overseas. What's the best way of spoiling the party? Show the people India has uncertainty. Now, unfortunately, the Modi government has shown a lot of certainty in its policy. They bring a policy, they abide by it. So who creates the uncertainty? You have a set of people who go to court, who will start staying this policy, stay that policy, interfere in this, interfere in that, start investigations, start inquiries. Foreign investors say, do I really want to go there?
So why does the Supreme Court have to form a committee into everything? I mean, why in the OCCRP, which has no locus standi, makes baseless claims which are proven to be baseless of Pegasus, why does the Supreme Court have to set up a committee?
because they have to be on top of everything.
No, sir, this is a question. When the Supreme, why when the court...
Have you heard of any other Supreme Court doing this?
No, I haven't heard, and I'm wanting to know, is this good for our democracy?
Obviously not.
There are a section of people who say, this is the system of checks and balances. We don't have an opposition, but thank God for the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, therefore, is encouraged to take on the role of the opposition. So when the court abrogates Article 370 or passes CAA, or the Election Commission of India announces the special intensive revision, should the Supreme Court weigh in on this? How do you see this play out, where everything is being dragged and decided in and by the courts of the country?
See, there are very few things which cannot be given a legal format for being brought into a court. Take the special intensive revisions. It is the wisdom of the judges to separate the grain from the chaff. It is not for the asking that the court should start telling the Election Commission, you convince me that what you are doing is right.
Yeah.
By doing so, what have you done? The Election Commission is a co-equal institution.
The Election Commission is a tribunal answerable to the President of India.
It's a co-equal constitutional institution.
To the Supreme Court.
To the government, to the Supreme Court. To the
But it's answerable to the President of India.
It is a co-equal constitutional institution, yes. To certain extents, its decisions are amenable to judicial review.
Yes.
But by saying the burden shifts on you, Election Commission, to convince me that you are doing something right, what is the message you are sending to an average Indian? Have you not reduced the stature of that institution? I'm sorry, I have some very strong views about this. You readily take on allegations.
You think the Supreme Court should not get into this PCI issue?
Then I read in the newspapers, I was not here, that they found that one of the affidavits was false. What did they do? Nothing. Try lying to an English court. You will go from the courtroom to a jail. So today you file a false affidavit in the Supreme Court. And who's made accountable? Not the person who lies. You make a co-equal constitutional institution accountable. Why? Because you can. So I'm sorry, all this needs some soul searching by the judges. What are they doing? Let's not berate and reduce the stature of other institutions and portray yourself as the only saviors of democracy. You know, I remember a very, very powerful argument by the late Lal Narayan Sinha. He was pitched against Mr. Palkhiwala, whose eloquence was phenomenal. I mean, Mr. Palkhiwala was mesmerizing with his words. And he, of course, there was a lot of things he threw at the 42nd Amendment, which was, of course, obnoxious, about how Gokhale, the then law minister, had said the courts are a let and a hindrance, etc., etc. And I can never forget, as a young lawyer, what Lal Narayan Sinha told the Supreme Court. He said it is true that without this court, democracy cannot survive. But do not ever forget, without Parliament, this court cannot survive. The truth is, each institution has to do its own job. That is how democracy prospers. So do not ever get lulled into this belief that it is you and you alone because of whom.
Last question on this point, that is this obsessive tendency of political players also to outsource tough and difficult decisions to the courts? It becomes easy. I'm a politician, I don't want to do something. I want to be seen to be instructed by the Supreme Court to do it, and therefore, or the High Court or whatever. So matters of society and the executive are being settled in courts, also believe, because politicians on both sides find that to be easy to do. They don't want to be unpopular, and yet they have to legislate. So is outsourcing of tough decisions happening by the executive itself?
Let me just take a step back. See, with Mrs. Gandhi's time, you never had this problem. One may disagree with a lot of things she did, but you can never doubt she was a robust and a strong leader. She fought elections, she won elections, she lost elections. She led from the front. And she never hid behind anybody for her decisions. She took wrong decisions, she took responsibility. She took right decisions, she took credit. But it's this coalition politics which started hiding behind courts. Now the trouble is the courts have got used to be fed on a diet of the kind of politicians who outsource to them. You now have a government which says, I want to lead from the front. Yeah. And that's why you're seeing all this trouble.
Has the judicial system failed the citizen?
That's too strong.
Can I expand on it?
Yes,
the
please.
Upar victims case has remained in limbo. A young man who killed 2 people in a Porsche in Pune walks away after writing a 300-word essay. And Justice Verma's committee continues to enjoy privileges funded by taxpayers. We've had absolutely no justice in the cash burning stash issue. Does this not lay bare the profound inequity in how justice is being dispensed in our countries?
Each of the cases you put your finger on are good examples of where things are malfunctioning. Have the judges failed India? I don't think so. Are they on the right trajectory? I think some rethinking is required. Right from the way judges are selected, from the way judges are appointed, and from the way judges work. I think it's time they need to examine, they need to revisit what they are doing, they need to revisit how they are perceived.
Who are they answerable to?
The people.
They are answerable to themselves.
They are answerable to the real masters in a democracy is the political sovereign. And the political sovereign is the people of India. Every institution is answerable to the people of India. Nation first.
So, but burning cash. The visuals of the burning cash must play so that it serves as a reminder of what is going wrong in our system.
Yes.
I'm sure your heart burns too when you see the burning cash. Do you have the visuals? We do not have them. Okay, we'll play them in later. But ladies and gentlemen, you all remember the burning cash visuals shown from different angles. And then we know that the Justice Verma report has been lying dormant for nearly 6 to 8 months since the 3-member panel submitted its findings. What is going on? So where is the sense of urgency and transparency? The courts are expecting urgency and transparency from every institution in this country. You have a wrong representation made by someone from the agencies, they'll be torn apart. Mr. Salve, the justice, this case has wide visibility in the public eye.
It's an old adage playing itself out. If you once you take a wrong turn and you keep driving, you go off the cliff. They addressed this the wrong way. Instead of first day handing it over to the CBI to say, investigate, find out what's happened, they first they try getting him to resign. He says no. Then they start some inquiry. It doesn't work. Then they have an in-house committee. They have a report. What can they do with the report? They don't have the power to sack him. So they then go back to the political system and say, now here we have a report. Will you please sack him? Sack him means what? And in the meanwhile, he continues to be paid by your and my taxes. So this whole thing is wrong. You've taken a wrong turn. You keep driving.
But I'll ask you one thing. The same judiciary is demanding accountability from everyone. They have not acted 1 inch in the case of the Justice Verma burning cash case. There are instances and observations which show a contrast and a double standards. The Supreme Court implies that the President of India, no less, the President of India must act on its advice. Under Article 143, even hinting on a mandamus if she doesn't. But when it comes to matters of its own ranks, the same urgency and enforcement appears short. So I'm asking, this question in the context of events over the last 8 months, on the one side, no action on the Justice Verma case. On the other side, they are saying that the Rashtrapati should act under their instructions under 143. And what are we supposed to make of it, sir? Have they become a law unto themselves?
Well, there is a lot in what you're saying. These questions have been resonating throughout India. And I don't know whether they are or not, but I wish the judges take notice, because every institution must refresh itself. It's a fundamental rule. The political system works. You get elected to office, 5 years later you have to go back to the people. If they don't like you, they kick you out. So you refresh yourself. Judges appointing judges is it's a very closed, as my friend Dr. Dhawan used to say, it's an incestuous system. It's a very closed system. It doesn't look nice. It doesn't feel nice. It was a band-aid on a problem. The band-aid can't become a cure and a permanent feature.
Correct.
So the institution is not refreshing itself. Then you're all within yourself. You're happy in your cloistered ivory towers. And around you, there are people who are raising questions. Take notice, correct your course. Otherwise, history will correct you, and those are very painful corrections.
You've spoken about this 2 years back. We had the pleasure of hosting you at the Republic Summit. When I asked you the same question, you came down heavily on the Collegium system. I think I have that soundbite where he came down very heavily on the Collegium system. Can we play that, please? Thank you.
Are you willing to engage in a public debate with CJI DY Chandrachud on this?
What is there to debate? Show me one country in the world. Are Caesar's wives, and Caesar's wives have to be above suspicion. Show me one authority, one sociological research which says if judges don't appoint judges, the independence of judiciary is compromised.
This is a very important subject in today's case. As a legend of the law, can you expand on this?
See, from 1950, the words of the Constitution have not changed. It's in plain English, as Justice Hugo Black used to say, why do you need thesis? He used to go around with a small copy of the American Constitution in his pocket. He says, read it for what it says. So let's read the Constitution for what it says. A judge shall be appointed by the President of India after consulting the Chief Justice. So he has consulted the Chief Justice. I have it from very senior people who work together, both as retired judges as well as senior law ministers. My father had a very dear friend, Mr. Shiv Shankar, who for years and years was law minister. He says, this current Chief Justice, the former Chief Justice's father, Yashwant Chandrachud, was the Chief Justice for the longest period. He said we used to call up in the evening and say, what are you doing? Come over for a coffee. And they used to sit over and say, okay, these are the names Chandrachud would have, these are the names, And he said, we used to have some names. He said, 99 out of 100 cases, we'd say, yeah, you're fine, or say, we have a little problem with this chap, his IB report doesn't look good, or so on, so as a political slant, don't appoint him. 99 out of 100. You got our finest judges. You got the Krishna Iyers, the Bhagwatis, the Chinnaparedis from that kind of a system. In 1991, the government started fiddling with the appointment of judges. So we filed, and then some sort of a patchwork was created by saying, till the Constitution, force the government's hand to amend the Constitution. So we say, okay, judges will, consultation means concurrence, etc., etc. After 3 judgments had said consultation means consultation, not concurrence, Supreme Court flipped and said, no, it means concurrence. That was a band-aid to solve a problem created by coalition governments and brazen interference with the appointment of judges. But that had to be fixed. The NGAC was created, by which time, once you get a power, even for a short term, and the world has seen this, a military leader takes power for 15 days in a coup, after which he doesn't want to give up his job. Anybody who's appointed an acting president doesn't want to give up his job. Then he'll do his best to make sure he continues as president. So the judges got this power as a band-aid. That was clearly what we all understood.
They held on to it then.
Yeah, but now they struck down the NGAC.
And on what logic? The emergency.
And on what logic? They struck down on the ground that unless judges appoint judges, or a majority of judges appoint judges, you will not have judicial independence.
Justice Kurian Joseph, former Supreme Court judge who was on that bench that passed that order that scrapped the NJC, while regretting on his judgment, had said that the Collegium system needs to be improved, requiring a glasnost and a perestroika. And hence the case needs to be heard further in this regard. So is that a closed chapter?
I don't know.
Will it happen?
I don't know if the government is going to reopen it or not. I think it should be.
How will government appointing judges be better than judges appointing judges?
So neither of them appoint judges. I'm sure in a country of 1.4 billion, you can find 11 Indians to sit in a room and appoint the finest.
Who will appoint those 11 Indians?
Those 11 Indians can be chosen by the government. And believe me...
But then will it be a government-controlled judiciary?
No, it won't be a government-controlled judiciary. You can have 11 people whom the Chief Justice of India and the Prime Minister of India and the leader of the opposition choose. Or the Prime Minister of India. See, let us not forget.
To do that?
Of course you can. And if we can't do that, then let's not call ourselves a democracy. If 1.4 billion people, you can't find 11 honest people to appoint judges, why are we calling ourselves a democracy? I'm sure we can. Don't let India down like this. We are a strong nation, we are a robust nation, and we can rise to the occasion.
What is remarkable and why we feel you're a legend and you're honoring us with your presence today, Mr. Salve, is because you have that freedom of thought and the freedom of expression. You're unrestrained and you bring everything back to India. So, to you now as a legend and not just as a legal luminary, my question is, foreign interference in India's affairs is not new. In fact, that has been a constant theme through many arguments of Mr. Salve. You really believe from overt attempts in the past to more sophisticated influence operations today through NGOs, media networks. You use the word ecosystem. Tell us your broad thought on it. When I speak to you, I always get a feeling that you are concerned about more the people who want to break India from...
So let me tell you, my wife, who's not only a great bookworm, but she's from Afghanistan.
Right.
And she asked me to read a book. It's called The Great Game. And then follow up with that is a former Indian diplomat who's written a book called The Shadow of the Great Game. You must read that. It goes right back to why Afghanistan was the center of so much international activity, because it was the gateway to India. India was the golden bird whom the British had captured. And everybody wanted to come here. Our GDP was amongst the highest, etc., etc. We all know this as a history. And the games which Russia and the Western world, US was that time too far away, but Russia, France, Germany, the games, and Britain, the games they played, and the whole creation of Pakistan was because when finally India was created, the British said, Gandhi will not allow us to have a foothold in India. So we must have a friendly country where we can have a toehold. That's why Pakistan was created. That's all now documented matter. So this has gone on since then. This has gone on from 1100, 1200, 1300 downwards. From the time of the Renaissance and from the time of the fall of the Ottoman Empire, when the whole thing became unraveled. And from the time oil became important, it became even more important because Middle East then became the prize. In 1700, 1800, it went nuts. So this has been there from ever. And Mrs. Gandhi turned towards Russia. And I don't agree with her economic philosophy. I think that set India back hugely. But we get a solid ally in Russia. And Russia has always been an honest friend to us.
Would you say so today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I always say, whatever it may be, in this world, we have to look after ourselves. And that's one lesson we have learned always. I remember Vajpayee's speech after the Bombay attack. Two things he said. He says about the West and their duplicity. He says, आतंकवाद की परिभाषा देश को देख के बदल नहीं सकती. For each country, you redefine what is terrorism. And the second thing he said, ये हमारी लंबी लड़ाई है और इसमें हम अकेले हैं. So we have to recognize that. And nation first, India's interest. India's interest comes first. That's the strong position which we have taken now, and that's the right position we have taken now. Today, we have the biggest threat of them all. A very different kind of threat. We are 1.4 billion. We have a strong army and becoming stronger by the day. So physically, you're safe. Nuclear deterrence has put us in place that you're not really worried about physical threat to India. The biggest threat to India is the $5 trillion we need to become a developed Viksit Bharat. And that is now being worked on as to how do we destroy the image of India. And your biggest threat, there is a threat from outside, but they have friends within who work. I asked, I don't want to name, a big American newspaper has an office in Delhi. Big American newspaper,
right,
which has always unpleasant things to say about India, has an office in Delhi.
Right.
And I met somebody, he says, oh, I work at the desk of that newspaper in Delhi. I said, why are you in Delhi with this bad air? Why don't you go back to New York? He said, no, how do I cover Delhi news? I said, look, you write fiction in any case. You can cook up the fiction in New York. Why do you have to suffer this bad air? So, we must realize the world, nobody likes. Today, you played that clip, our Prime Minister thumping the table and saying from 10 to 4 and 4 to 3. Correct? We have enemies, and people don't want this to happen. Wasn't Hindenburg a good example of the biggest Indian, one of the largest Indian business houses being destabilized?
USAID funding.
So, the whole USAID funding, the whole George Soros...
These are not alien issues, they're all connected.
And if you investigate that false affidavit on the SIR, I'm willing to have a little wager with you. You will have George Soros' blessing somewhere. Some NGO somewhere is irresponsible. So we have to be aware of all this. And I'm sorry, our judges have to be aware of all this.
You're right.
And they have to, wake up and smell the coffee. This is what is happening.
Yeah.
And if you are going to destabilize investment in India by judgments which are commercially insensitive, and by saying things like, oh, this is the commercial case, what's the hurry? Commercial cases are not important. If you're going to run coach and four through arbitration law, which is the global standard today for dispute resolution, who's going to invest in India? And we made this point in the Kautilya conclave. Today, when a foreign investor is looking for an investment, today you come in for 3 to 5 years, you look at the IRR. And one of the important elements in internal rate of return is the risk.
Yep.
And for India, you mark up the risk by 1%, 1.5% for uncertainty. Now, the government is okay. Government is not uncertainty. The courts create uncertainty. Who's paying for that 1.5% increased cost of capital? You and me and the common consumer.
Yep.
So, please, you have to be alive to all this. If you really want India, it's very well to give lectures saying, oh, there's so much poverty and rich and poor. Of course, there's a problem. But what do we solve it? We can't solve it the old leftist way, saying the only way to resolve the difference between rich and poor is make everybody poor. Now we say the way of solving this is make everybody prosperous. And if you have to make everybody prosperous, you need investment. Investment today is global. So, this isolationism doesn't work. And we have to become in sync with the world. And if we keep shaming ourselves, if we keep defaming our own institutions, you go all over the world and give lectures and say, there's no democracy in India, please help, come save us. Our election commission is a bunch of thieves, etc., etc. And then people say, oh, really? Is there going to be a revolution in India? Is there going to be this kind of political uncertainty? Should we really invest in India? Or should we ratchet up the risk?
So you think this is all deliberate? And I've seen you increasingly concerned about this over the last few years as you've been primarily based in London. Do you believe all these so-called foundations, fronts, NGOs have managed to infiltrate public discourse to the point that they shape narratives under the guise of activism or rights? And do you think this is because of India's growing assertiveness on the global stage that makes us a bigger target for attempted destabilization by organizations that are masked as civil society movements?
How much of a target we have happily allowed ourselves to become, that a man like Soros publicly declares that I put aside $1 billion to remove Modi from prime ministership.
You don't believe he's an irrelevant old man?
You may like Modi, you may not like Modi, you may vote for him, you may not vote for him. But I don't think any American can say, I've got a suitcase full of dollars, so I want to get rid of the Indian prime
When
minister.
that point is made, the people say, don't take him seriously, he's just a conceited, arrogant and irrelevant old man.
I'm sorry, I have seen NGOs accounts where he has given large sums of money. He had given money to an NGO, I don't want to name anybody. He had given money to an NGO who was fighting against, trying to get a prohibition on tobacco and cigarettes. I was defending ITC. And when I saw those figures, I called up the ITC chairman saying, you should be ashamed of yourself. The NGOs got 3 times as much money as you paid me, a private expensive lawyer. So this is the reality of all this.
So it's going to get worse. There'll be attempts to weaponize financial markets.
It is going on.
Against our economic sovereignty.
It is going on.
Is it going to get worse in the next 1 or 2 years?
It's a battle you have to fight every day. It's a battle you have to fight every day. In the financial markets fronts, you have to have an Operation Sindoor like Operation Ongoing. All the time.
Well, Ms. Salve, this narrative battle is incredible, isn't it? It can open up at any
In
point.
today's world, it's all about narratives, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all about narratives.
Yeah.
And building a negative narrative with the power of social media is so easy.
Yeah.
And what you need to do today, because today the era of promoters has gone. All the monies are controlled by hedge funds, high net worth individuals, private people. So it is extremely reputationally sensitive, very reputationally sensitive. And a narrative destroys reputations.
Yeah.
So you have to be very, very astute in what you allow and what you don't allow. Democracy is all about many voices, but you always have to be vigilant against the malevolent voice.
Yeah. Ms. Salve, a couple of questions on a few fundamental issues. You are very much part of the high-level committee on one nation, one election. We believe that can actually change the country. It's a reform that can fundamentally change the rhythm of India's democracy. You've been a staunch proponent of ONOP. Let me play a soundbite on your views on one nation, one poll, because if that happens, our country changes forever in a big way. Can we play that, please?
Politics to one side. The fortunes of politicians, honestly, put the politics to one side. The fortunes of politicians are determined by the voters, and I think our electorate is now mature enough to know whom to vote for. We have had simultaneous elections where Party A has won the Lok Sabha seats and Party B has won the state. Look, this year, look at what happened when Chandrababu swept the state, but their coalition did not have success at the Lok Sabha elections. So, please do not discredit the intelligence of the Indian voter. Think of the positives and think of how we can make life better.
You be a simultaneous election in this country.
I don't know about 2029, but I have one weakness. I'm an incorrigible optimist. And that's why I say, yes, it will happen.
You've said don't discredit the intelligence of the Indian voter. But some people say simultaneous elections can blur between state and national level issues. State issues are different, Mr. Salve. National issues are different. How would you respond to that?
Whoever says this, tell him to go down to the pawn shop outside your studio or the tea stall outside your studio and to discuss how politically astute is every Indian. We Indians are a very politically astute and politically alive society. I don't mean to be disparaging. It's just a temperament. It's a mindset. You go and interview an American on the street, how aware is he of American politics beyond his own state? And you go and interview an Indian on the street, a common Indian, a guy driving a truck, a fellow riding a three-wheeler, a person selling tea, and see how astute they are, how alive they are. Your audience, how many of them are from that strata of society? So Indians are very, very alive to political reality. And it's only a politician who says, I lost because of blurred lines, is being a sorry loser.
Mr. Salve, to move to a little bit about you as an individual, I know you're looking at the watch. We want to know a little bit more about you. We've heard you on several issues. What is the most important thing that makes you the #1 choice for corporate cases today? You're seen to be the top corporate lawyer. All the big corporates line up and are in line outside you, whether it be the biggest legal challenge against the government of India on the imposition of retrospective taxes in Vodafone. That has become a landmark arbitration in the Supreme Court. You represented Tata Sons during the legal battle with the Mistry family over Cyrus Mistry's removal as chairman, where you passionately argued NCLAT has no power to overrule the shareholders' right to appoint the chairman. What makes you as an individual the preferred corporate choice?
I mean, there are
Is it your temperament?
There are a lot of assumptions here that I am the preferred corporate choice, etc., etc. So I don't know. I work hard.
You work hard?
I work very hard. That's one thing I can say without fear of contradiction. And I try and...
Can you go into a little bit of working hard in terms of detail? What is your schedule? What is your diary making? What is the way in which you work?
No, unlike, all of us have our own style of working. For me, I always remember what my guru, Mr. Palkhiwala, said.
Yep.
That if the judge asks you a question of fact or law and you don't know the answer, hang your head in shame. So, and now, especially at a particular, after you put in so many years in the profession, people trust you with big cases, plus with the growth of the economy and the complexity of the financial world, cases have become huge, records have become huge, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 pages. I'm not one who believes that give me a note on what is where. Unless I've seen each and every paper myself, I do not ever feel comfortable in a case. I hate surprises in a courtroom. So,
you prepare hard.
Yeah, that's the only way because I don't have the intellect which others have, where they can pick it up quickly. I take my own time. Maybe I'm a plodder. I take my own time, I work hard. But I believe, unless I've seen everything, if my client is paying me a fee, he is entitled to expect that level of service from me.
What about country on the one side, corporate on the other? You've been very critical of the government every time you felt we were lagging behind in comparison to the world due to our legal limitations. Vodafone case, during which you highlighted that how retrospective law was, quote unquote, a first in its scope, potentially, quote, raising India's image as a stable investment destination. Now, when you criticize the government, do you feel you're criticizing the country? Has there ever been that moment when you enter a courtroom when you believe that what you're saying may help an organization but not work for the country?
See, especially in sensitive cases like this, I'm an Indian. I am as much the country as somebody else is. So if I get up and say my government is behaving badly, I'm entitled to say so. If we don't raise our voice, we are not slaves of the government. And as a lawyer, it's my duty. And sometimes, as in the Vodafone case, I felt it was, as a student of taxation law, it was something terrible which was being done. I have clients who came and asked me saying, if they can do this, can they do that also? Can they change that law also? Can they change some other law also? So you have generally sent a message saying, you have laws, you're acting on the basis of them, but we can flip anything and we can flip it retrospectively. So if you've invested 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion in India on a particular financial understanding of these are going to be my returns, and suddenly you change the rules of the game, who's going to invest in you? And then what happens is people say, okay, literally we had reached one point in 2012-13 when I remember one of the big oil companies came to me and said, how do we safely, economically plan in India? I said, very simple. Take your gross income, and on your gross income, just assume there'll be 40% tax. He said, but it'll become uneconomical. I said, if it is economical at 40% tax on your gross income, they can't go beyond that. So what happens? Your marker of investment goes up. I had the legal head of a big oil company saying, I have $2 billion lying in a bank, which I will have to return to my head office. I want to set up a refinery in India because of a particular tax dispute and the uncertainty that if we win, the government will go back on it. My head office is saying, put this money back, we will put it in Indonesia.
Can you remember any one case? You've represented any one moment, anecdote you'd like to share with us. You had the front row seats in every corporate battle. Tata Sons battle, that time you represented the group against, I think there was C.A. Sundaram, I think, on the other side. And we've seen some fresh disagreements recently in the Tatas appear to be settled now. Is there any moment you remember which you'd like to share with us? You know, because we are told the biggest of business houses, politicians, all sit and listen attentively and go by your advice. Is there any in your last 50 years of your legal career, anything you'd like to remember, any moment which you think tells a bigger story, a moment from your career?
The great moments of my life have come out of non-corporate battles. And I think the 2 or 3 big moments of my life, as a young lawyer, I was addressing 5 judges. In the bearer bonds case, I was 3 years at the bar. For the first 5 minutes, I could barely get my voice to come out of my mouth. And I must say, old man Chandrachud, not this Chief Justice, former, he was very good to juniors. So he encouraged me, he argued, but he was not listening to what I was saying. He thought, okay, he's a bright youngster, I'll hear him for an hour. And I started at 12, at 1 o'clock I had covered, and Justice Bhagwati was interacting a lot with me. And Justice Gupta was interacting a lot with me. And at 1 o'clock he said, all right, Mr. Salve, your 1 hour is up. I said, well, I had a few more things to say, but... And Justice Bhagwati and Gupta both turned on him and said, you've heard Mr. Garg basically abuse the Supreme Court for 2 days without making a single point. This youngster is doing so well, and you're showing him the clock? Sorry, no. And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. Take your time, Mr. Salve. That was such a beautiful moment for me as a youngster in court. So, these are moments you never, ever forget. And the one case which I am very proud of winning is I appeared for a group of prisoners, and we brought a very interesting case to court saying, can the police give them what loosely is called truth serum, compulsorily, without their consent? And we got the Supreme Court to say no. So, these are cases where you don't get a fee, you don't care. It's important questions of law get decided. Important constitutional principles get decided. Freedom of press cases, where we have fought for the media and got important judgment. Absolutely. Like I appeared for that comedy channel, who ran something which was offensive, and the judges took great umbrage. And I said, look, learn to laugh. He said, but what's your freedom of... I said, I define freedom of speech as my right to irritate you. That's freedom of speech. As my right to say things which you don't want to hear. So, what is freedom of speech? Not saying nice things about you, not platitudes about you. Freedom of speech is my right to poke fun at society. Freedom of speech is my right to mock all idols, as long as I do it in language which is temperate and decent. So, please understand what freedom of speech is. Cases like this, which you get to fight, those are fun.
How do you decide which cases to fight for gratis?
It has to be something which you feel is worth a fight. Like Colonel Purohit's case, I fought. Colonel Purohit's case.
Why did you fight Colonel Purohit's case?
Because I realized what was being done to him was very, very unfair. He was in the crossfire of a political battle. And I'm very happy I appeared for him, I got him bail, and I'm so happy he has been acquitted.
Should there be a law on malicious prosecution strongly implemented in this country? Because we are all victims of it. You file a case against a common man, the common man gets harassed, family gets hounded, jailed, blah, blah, blah. I'm not talking only about myself, but I'm saying that these are cases where the foundational principles of justice get questioned. There's too much of it.
You know what we need? Way back in 87 or 88, Justice Hugo Black, one of the most famous judges of the US Supreme Court, great champion of rights. He had come to India. And I remember I was in the audience, I was very young that time, and Fali Nariman and all saying, oh, our Supreme Court has said this about fundamental rights and that about fundamental rights. He said something very interesting. He says, don't give me all this high-flying jurisprudence. Do you have a Civil Rights Act? You must create a Civil Rights Act. If a citizen is wrongly arrested, there must be a statute under which he gets money, compensation, under which he can get the person who arrested him sent to jail. If a citizen is discriminated, there must be a simple law by which he can go to a magistrate's court and get relief. Right. You need a Civil Rights Act. All these high-fairy notions of constitutional jurisprudence, right to life, and it's all very good in stratosphere. But on the ground, where is your Civil Rights Act? We still don't have one.
That's so well said, sir. So well said. Every word of yours is going to be quoted in the legal fraternity and outside. I can tell you, every word of this conversation is going to be watched. So you are now King's Counsel. The title of a King's Counsel is a very prestigious appointment for senior lawyers in England and Wales. And I think you were one of the world's first leading arbitration counsels to be appointed as King's Counsel in 2020. But the nation wants to know why Harish Salve lives the life of a hermit in the United Kingdom?
I don't.
Flying in and out?
Why hermit? Who says I live like a hermit? Life, I mean, just because one takes the underground train doesn't make you a hermit.
So, but you're in London. Aren't Nirav Modi and Vijay Mallya and Lalit Modi dead scared of you, saying that he's too close to us?
Well, that's their problem. I don't have sleepless nights. They do. It's good.
So you saw that clip of Rhythm. You saw that clip of Rhythm.
Yeah,
She would have made a fine lawyer. She's a good lawyer.
Absolutely.
We've stolen away from practice. Can I play that clip, which you can see? I thought you were thoroughly enjoying that clip out there when you played it.
Why did you rush out of India? Mr. Mallya, why are the questions bothering you when I'm not getting a single answer? Just answer one question, sir. Persistently, we're asking you only one question. Mr. Mallya, why did you escape in 2015? Why did you walk out? Why did you rush out of India? Mr. Mallya, why are the questions bothering you when I'm not getting a single answer? Just answer one question, sir. Persistently, we're asking you only one question. Mr. Mallya, why did you escape in 2015?
You know why he ran?
Did you walk out? Why did you rush out of India?
Because of your boss.
One second. There's an inside story moment going on.
Because of you.
Who ran because of us?
Yeah. You are the one who started Mallya Gate in the evening. I had warned him, this is the wrong time to go to India. You talk to the banks, settle your dues, do this, do that.
You told him that?
Yes.
What did you tell him?
He was my client that time.
What did you tell him?
Settle, this is not the way. And he says, okay, I'll go to India, I'll meet A and B and C. I said, God Almighty can't help you. And I told him, this is Modi Sarkar, you know, they don't do favors. You go, you talk to your banker, find a figure, close it, and go and finish all that. He says, and then he didn't do it, so you had started your Mallya Gate. So he was going, I said, look, you go and Arnab will start his Mallya Gate.
You told him that?
And you will be, of course, and you will be in trouble. And that's exactly what happened. He came here, you ran a Mallya Gate, and then there was a story, he might be arrested, or there were about 15 cases against him in different courts where he was, all they needed to do was get an order of the court saying he will not travel without leave of court, and he would have been stuck in India. So that evening he ran from India because of you.
We have some messages from people who love you, sir. Aniruddha Datta, senior lawyer, your friend, Hitesh Jain, and Justice Rajiv Shakdar. I'd like to play those, please. Thank you.
Harish Salve. What should I say? Harish Salve.
It is Mr. Harish Salve, a man who has a gift of gab, whose eloquence basically adorned the walls of the court. I distinctly remember a fond memory when I saw him 30 years before in the Supreme Court of India, but on the opposite side in a matter It was my first appearance in the Supreme Court. And in my first day in the Supreme Court, he just came, effortlessly made the submission, eloquently put it across the court, and the matter was over. I mean, we couldn't realize what happened. A fearless man whose eloquence everyone knows, but a man with a large heart. That's Mr. Salve.
Thank you for having me over. I joined Mr. Salve's chamber somewhere in 1988-89, when I was myself wet around the ears and had just about got out of law school. As a matter of fact, I was recommended by his senior, Mr. Sorabji. The common point or the common area of interest was that both me and Mr. Salve were chartered accountants. So Mr. Sorabji thought it fit that I should perhaps join Mr. Salve's chamber. At that time, interestingly, Mr. Salve had not taken the silk. But even then, his trajectory was very clear to people around him, including his peers, his juniors, as well as his seniors. So, as was expected, Mr. Salve did phenomenally well. It was a treat for someone like me and others who joined the chamber later to have a ringside view of how matters are prepared, how arguments are finally delivered, and how you deal with the bench when it is making observations in your favor, and also when it is not making observations or raising objections. So, insofar as Mr. Salve is concerned, according to me, one of the things that he has in his arsenal, apart from lots of others, is his advocacy skills. By far, amongst those who have been his peers, juniors and seniors, would agree that there are very few who would match his skills in court. This is something I think younger members of the bar should pick up. When to close an argument, how to run with the bench and not run into the bench. So these are my impressions about being in Mr. Salve's chamber.
Share with the students nowadays, those opting for the profession of law or young into the profession of law, as something they would learn from you, from your experience?
Oh yes, always. It's always a pleasure to interact with students. I start by telling them I wish I had the same opportunities of education as you have. In our days, law colleges was something you went to because they had the best coffee service outside. Never really entered the classrooms. Today, the kind of education you have, the kind of teachers you have, the kind of interactions you have are great opportunities. Also, I find some of the finest minds today consider law as one of the first few options in life. So it's wonderful. Always remember 2 or 3 things about law. The first is, it is a very demanding profession. The second is, it requires not just immense hard work, which nowadays most professions do, but it demands immense patience. It takes years and years and years for you to really come of age, as they say, and be recognized as one of your own. So you need patience, you need determination, and you need what law teaches you, which very few other professions do, is to deal with failure on a daily basis. You lose cases every day. And every lost case is not a defeat, it's an opportunity to win the next case. So you have to develop that fighting spirit. And finally, remember, you are never a master of law. You're always a student of law. Always. And if those of you who want to become advocates, always remember there are two secrets in advocacy. You've heard about people saying, I'm a good advocate. I learned two things, both equally important. You must know what to say and when to say, but you must also know when to shut up. That's as important. So many cases have been lost by speaking more than necessary. So advocacy is not about scoring points. You're there trying to convince somebody of your point of view. It is not a peroration. Make your point as simply as you can. What I learned from Mr. Palkhiwala is you should place your point very simply so that the judge must feel, but of course he's right. That's the secret of advocacy. Demystifying, simplifying, not high words, not big words, not eloquence, simple, short sentences to the point behind which will be hours and hours and hours of hard work. That's what law is all about.
And so you're perhaps finest global ambassador for the country, and your nationalism shines through. What is your aspiration, sir? Now you have such stature in India, abroad, such personal credibility, and the bar and bench or both listen to you with admiration. What is your one aspiration, sir, which you would like to dedicate your life?
I'm very happy in the last 10 years, and this is not a political statement.
Sir.
I'm very happy that I have a government I can be proud of. It's not that everything they do is right, but whatever they do, their motive is never in doubt. For them also, it is nation first. It is not that there is nothing to criticize, but it is that we are all marching in the same step. So that's now for me a goal. And for me, my ambition now in the last decade plus of working life, which I have, is how can I leave, or what can I do to make India a better place for my two grandsons?
That's wonderful, sir. Last personal thing which I wanted to ask you, because the conversation is drawing to a close. You told me you were really, really, really working hard. You know, we had your colleagues, your family, all who are here, who said you took in the flight yesterday, you slept 5 hours, you were up and about, you did briefings, you already worked quite a lot, did half a day before you came here. A little bit I want to also know, because you are an inspiration to people and a legend. Nobody can be a legend without a certain attitude to life. From your habits, discipline, the fact that you're working so hard at this stage when you may choose not to. Something you want to share with the audience? We always ask our legends that question.
No, very early in life, my guru lit a fire in me, a passion for excellence. A passion for excellence is not a passion for money. It's not a passion for prosperity. As I was always taught, prosperity should only be a byproduct of excellence. It should never become an aim in life. And passion for excellence is a very tough taskmaster. When you want every time to come back and say, I was the best, you have to work very hard. And when you tell your body that look, I cannot compromise on this.
Yeah.
I'm lucky my body cooperates. So as I always say, nobody died of hard work.
Yeah.
I know of a lot of people who died of indolence and indulgence. So that's what drives me.
Well, you know, we've just been listening, and interesting observation from my side. Through the last, how long have we been talking? Hour and a half. Time has flown. the pin drop silence with which every word is being savored by the audience is a great compliment to Mr. Salve, I think, and to our respect we have for you.
Thank you.
And I think, if I can safely say this, that your greatest service/services to the country and what your contribution to the country is going to be is yet to come, Mr. Salve. I have this feeling today that you're going to do something spectacular for the country, and you're going to make the country even more proud of you than you have already so far, sir.
Well, if that does happen, all I will say is, thank you, God.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I think we can have a huge round of applause for this man. We are truly very, very honored, sir. Very honored. You are an incredible individual, and we all absolutely adore you, and we love you. Rhythm can do the closing honors, but on behalf of everyone, please don't move at all. And Mr. Salve, may I shake your hand? And can you give me a nice warm Salve hug once again? Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. What an extraordinary conversation we witnessed today. Our heartfelt gratitude to you for being here, for inspiring the next generation, for your brilliance, integrity, and also for your grace. You continue to inspire us. Thank you all for being here. On behalf of Republic Media Network, we all thank Mr. Salve for this unforgettable time. This was Legends, presented by Radico Spirit of Excellence, co-powered by Reliance Digital, Personalizing Technologies, and Raven Group, Jode Zindagi Ke Tod, Ketar, with education partner Parul University, Vadodara, Gujarat. We'll see you again with another extraordinary life, another timeless story, and another legend. Thank you.